It's a beautiful morning on this side of Lagos. Welcome to News Now here on News Central Television. Let's take a look at the top stories for this hour. Notorious bandit leader Kachalla Sharme and others killed in clash between rival groups in Kaduna. Kogi State House of Assembly demands sack of EFCC Chairman Ola Olukoyede. Opposition leaders released ahead of planned protest in Tanzania. I'm Joe Hanson. Details coming up shortly. News Central now this hour begins with security matters. A notorious bandit leader, Kachalla Sharme, and several others have been killed in a violent clash between rival gangs in Kaduna State, authorities have confirmed. Kaduna's Commissioner for Internal Security, Samuel Aruwa, stated that Sharme was killed in a fierce gunfight on Saturday in the Rijana and Kaso Forests spanning Kachalla, Chikum, and Kajuru areas. 2 other bandits were also killed while 5 sustained severe injuries. Sharme's gang was responsible for numerous attacks, including the July 2021 abduction of 121 students from Bethel Baptist High School. Aruwa described Sharme's death as a significant victory in the fight against banditry in the northwest, with some kidnapped victims reportedly escaping during the clash. Well, away from security matters, Senate leader Okoyemi Bamidele announced that the National Assembly's probe into alleged economic sabotage in the petroleum sector will be conducted jointly by both legislative chambers. Bamidele, chair of the Senate Ad hoc Committee for the investigation, stated that the inquiry will focus on issues like crude oil theft, refinery maintenance failures, substandard fuel imports, and supply disruptions. Contrary to reports, the Senate did not suspend its probe but postponed hearings to address procedural matters. He added that the investigation aims to uncover the roots of sabotage and improve the petroleum industry. Bamidele also noted that the Senate is awaiting the new medium-term expenditure framework (MTEF) and is preparing for the ongoing review of the 1999 Constitution. The Federal Executive Council, FEC, approved the establishment of a disaster management fund. This was disclosed to journalists on Monday by Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, at the State House, Abuja, after the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. According to the minister, in this era of climate change, no matter the prevention measures in place, disasters will still occur. He emphasized the importance of pulling funds from various sectors and being prepared when disasters strike. Let's now head to Edo State with an update on the outcome of the governorship election. The People's Democratic Party has officially rejected the Edo State governorship election results announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission. During a press conference in Abuja, PDP acting national chairman Umar Damagum called on concerned Nigerians to support the party's rejection of the election results. He asserted that the PDP candidate Asuo Ighodalo was the rightful winner of the election. Meanwhile, the PDP candidate Asuo Ighodalo says his mandate has been brazenly stolen. Ighodalo condemned what he calls the shameful subversion of the will of voters. In a statement released on Monday, Ighodalo thanked the people for believing in him and supporting him throughout the journey.
Give thanks to God Almighty. We give thanks to God for the gift of life, the gift of health, and for the love you all have shown me. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who has stood by us on this incredible journey. I would like to particularly thank the good people of Edo State who defied the rains, the intimidation, the threats of violence, harassment, arrests, and financial inducements to cast their votes for us overwhelmingly last Saturday, 21st September 2024. You are the true heroes of our democracy, and your sacrifices for a better Edo State will never be forgotten. My aspiration was not born out of the love for power, but a genuine desire to serve the people and create a pathway to prosperity for all in Edo State. I traveled through every ward and every local government area sharing this message and engaging in meaningful conversations with you. To all our beloved supporters, we thank you for believing in this vision, for your countless hours of dedication, and for every conversation you've had.
Well, reactions have continued to trail the outcome of the governorship election held on Saturday in Edo State. News Central correspondent Austin Azu, who is monitoring the development in Benin City, brings us details.
The Edo State governorship election, conducted on Saturday, September 21st, by the Independent National Electoral Commission, and subsequent declaration of winner will not be forgotten in a hurry.
That Akwebola Monday of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Though some party agents have accused both the electoral umpire and security of being partial, stating their party's intention to challenge the election results collated and declared.
Our party, independently, Zeni Labour Party, will challenge the outcome of this election in the tribunal. We don't know of other parties what they will do, but we, as the Zeni Labour Party, will challenge it. Not because we want to be declared the winner, but we want to keep those in the helms of our affair on their toes, as I have mentioned before, just for the purpose of accountability and transparency. People, any evil done should be redressed and should not be left unattended to.
Looking at them, there's no celebration. It's only the APC leaders that are going to benefit from this fraud that are celebrating. So, INEC has done its worst, but we continue, we move on.
The governorship candidates of the PDP, Aswe Godalo, in a broadcast, alleged that the poll was marred by voter intimidation, threats of violence, harassment, arrest, and financial inducements.
Of this challenge, we must not be discouraged. The illusory triumph of evil over good is only temporary. Our journey towards a prosperous Edo State does not end here.
On the other hand, the Labour Party governorship candidate Olumide Akpata, at a press conference in Benin, accused the PDP and APC of vote buying instead of engaging in free and fair election practices.
What transpired on the 21st of September was not an election, but a transaction. It was enabled by those who chose to stay away, making it easier for the two dominant parties to afford a significant majority of the few votes on offer.
In another development, some respondents in Benin have highlighted areas they want the incoming governor to focus on.
Most expectation, he should continue from where the previous government starts, policy-wise, infrastructural-wise, and project execution.
I expect him to be an open governor, an accessible governor. Secondly, I expect him to appoint the very best people, the most courageous people of this state.
I want to see a governor who will actually respect our traditional institution. That, for an Edo man, is key and is number one.
The issue of roads should be tackled. In Edo State here, when I noticed that virtually all the roads, especially the federal roads, are in a very bad state.
If the primary purpose of government is to guarantee security and welfare for its people, it therefore means that the governor-elect of Edo State must prioritize the welfare and security of his people. In Benin, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Well, still on the election, members of the All Progressives Congress in Auchi, Edo State have dismissed allegations of election rigging leveled by the People's Democratic Party at the just concluded governorship election. This was as they held a victory parade following their success at the poll, which say the APC candidate Monday, Okwebolo, beat his closest rival, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Aswe Godalo, at the poll. Amadine Uyi reports.
The celebration commenced at the APC office in Auchi, Edo State. Young and old, male and female, party faithful, they came out in their numbers to celebrate the victory of the All Progressives Congress at the just concluded Edo State governorship election. From there, they then commenced the victory parade along major streets of Auchi City.
For our victory, I'm happy because for 8 years now we have been suffering. No good road, no good schools, no good hospitals. So today we are happy.
Because all of us, especially in Edo North, we know Obaseki did not do anything. He underperformed. And when you underperform, you cannot get a second or a third term.
You can see the mood of the people. They are happy that the government has changed from bad to good. Our people now have hope. The past administration did not do anything.
Women, they are the super of APC. They are the head and the tail. We use our full effort to make sure we pull out PDP out of the government.
Some presidents say the victory is a reward for their efforts during the poll.
We work day and night to get victory. If PDP know that they don't have anything to do or to contribute or to even get the vote of our people because they really suffered us. Nothing to show in Esako West that was done by Godwin Obaseki's administration. Rather, it's fight, fight, fight.
They also took time to dismiss allegations of election rigging by the People's Democratic Party, saying they should prove their claims.
It's not rigged election. It was fair election. We did not rig. Everything is in the internet. We won it free and fair. We did not rig it. We were tired of PDP and we decided to sweep them away.
Ask them if anybody's unit was rigged. The PDP voted in their various unit. Were there any rigging in their various unit? If there's no rigging in their unit, then there's no rigging in my unit. Then there was no rigging in Edo State.
It is the cry of the loser. Anybody that lost election, we accuse opponent that they rigged the election. In this part of the state, nobody rigs election. The work our leader has done when he was governor for 8 years is testimony to it. So that anytime he asks us to go and vote for APC candidate, we always trust that candidate.
They expressed confidence that the newly elected governor will deliver on his promises to citizens of Edo State. In Auchi, Edo State, for News Center, I am Amadil Uyu.
Reactions have continued to trail the conclusion of the Edo State governorship poll, while some residents of Auchi located at the Isako West local government area dispute the integrity of the poll. Others say it was a victory for the All Progressives Congress and highlight several areas that they desire the newly elected governor to focus on when he assumes office. In the meantime, the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the police contingent for the just concluded Edo State governorship election, Frank Mba, has given a security appraisal of the exercise. Mba, who briefed journalists at the Edo State Police Command in Benin City, said a total of 6 persons were arrested and 4 weapons comprising arms, knives and other weapons were indeed confiscated. While describing the election as peaceful across the 18 local government areas of the state, the DIG said 58 voter cards in possession of a third party were recovered alongside undisclosed cash. Mba further revealed that the police have activated post-election strategies, especially to provide security to residents of Edo State and public facilities.
For now, we have a total number of 6 suspects in our custody, but we expect that this number will likely go up as we begin to expand and deepen our investigations. We also recovered a total number of 4 weapons of different makes. This is also subject of a very wide investigation. Live ammunition were equally recovered in the process of recovering those weapons.
Well, time for a break. When we return, we'll take a look at the news on EFCC and Yahya Bello. Kogi Assembly insists no money is missing once Olukoyede sacked. Stay with us. We'll bring to you that story and more after this break. Thank you for staying with us. The Kogi State House of Assembly has called for the immediate removal of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukoyede, over what it called the unprofessional handling of the case against the immediate past governor of the state, Yahaya Bello. The legislators during plenary in Lokoja, the state capital, on Monday condemned what they described as the EFCC operatives' unprovoked attack on the Kogi State Government Lodge, said it was an attack on the governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo, and the entirety of the Kogi people. The lawmakers accused the EFCC of assassination attempt on the former governor and the incumbent, stressing that the persecution of the former governor had gone on for too long and must stop.
Mr. Speaker, how can EFCC declare the former governor Alhaji Yahya Adoza a fugitive when he has gone to court to sort his fundamental human right? Enough is enough, Mr. Speaker. It is high time we rise, because an injury to one is an injury to all. This is an embarrassment to Kogi State. How can the agents of EFCC mobilize themselves in their numbers to the liaison office in Abuja, destroying the properties of Kogi State?
This is a big slap to our dear state, an attempt to arrest on government lodge. I stand under the protection of the Speaker on the floor of this House chamber that EFCC should be called into order and call on this unholy act, because this can happen to anyone. And the question I want us to ask.
Away from that, Nigeria's Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, addressed the 79th United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, emphasizing Nigeria's long-standing commitment to international peace and security. Badaru made this known at the summit of the Future Interactive Dialogue 2, enhancing multilateralism for international peace and security, highlighting the deployment of over 200,000 troops in UN operations. The minister called for reform of the UN Security Council to ensure Africa is represented with permanent seats, arguing that this would enhance global stability. Badaru called on the international community to intensify efforts to control the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in conflict zones, particularly in the Sahel region. Well, to further discuss this, I'm being joined by Kach Onanaju, political analyst. Thank you for being here with us this morning on News Now. How do you think of Nigeria's commitment to international peace and security, and how do you think it will impact the country's relationships with other nations, particularly in the wake of Badaru's address?
I believe this the kind of works we should be promoting, telling the international community how very effective our participation in international peacekeeping has been in bringing peace to several parts of the world. I think it's time that we make that case for the United Nations to include people from Africa on the Security Council. And of course, you know, now that there is a call for alternative bodies to challenge the United Nations, one of the very reasons being given today across the world is that the Security Council is not expansive enough. It's not inclusive enough. It should include other people, and I believe now is the time to admit Africa to the Security Council. And I believe Nigeria does qualify to be given a seat at the United Nations Security Council.
Let's look at some of the key points made by the minister himself. Well, Badaru highlighted the deployment of over 200,000 troops in UN operations. Now, what significance does this have for Nigeria's military and for international peace and security?
If you remember, this is one of the things being talked about Nigeria across the world, that Nigeria has been a fantastic participant in United Nations peacekeeping operations across the world. And but when it comes home, such participations are very well commended by several people across the world, do not match what we do at home. I believe these are the things we should now play up. and remind the world what we have done in terms of peacekeeping in Angola, in Liberia, and other places. And these things have shown that Nigeria has been a very responsible member of the international community. And I believe now that there are times for consideration, we should get that seat. That should come to Africa. If not one, two. I do commend. I believe Africa has every right to be given that much. Look at Europe. They've had so many seats on. Why would the Western world have all the seats? We need to have the semblance of a bipolar world. And the semblance of a diverse world is that all classes of people from different continents should be given a say on the Security Council. And in Africa, Nigeria very well qualifies to be considered for that. Of course, our other competitors on that issue is South Africa. But we seem to be doing very well. And that's why our government should understand that if they're vying for this internationally, there is a need for us to start making good in improving governance at home, improving democracy and the rule of law back home in Nigeria.
All right. I mean, you've spoken a lot about... anyway, let's look at another one. The minister called for reform of the UN Security Council to ensure that Africa has a permanent seat. And you've said that this would be very good, especially if we can get one or two, comparing that to other countries as well. But let's look at this. Would this actually lead to stability, especially in Africa? Do you think this would lead to stability, or there is more to be done?
Well, more than stability, it will lead to the perception of inclusion, of a perception that the United Nations is not just something for the Northern Hemisphere. No, there should be a need and really actions done to see that the Global South is also carried along. And if you look at leaders of the Global South, Nigeria plays very well when it comes into our previous records of peacekeeping operations, our previous records of very responsible international citizens, and of course, our might as the largest Black nation on earth, who have been very responsible when it comes to international operations and the need to be a very serious member of the international community. So I believe it is now time for us to look at what Nigeria have done previously and be able to reward Nigeria for its participation in United Nations peacekeeping operations. Not just that, but the fact that we've been there every time when it's demanded upon us. This is the time for us to campaign right now to actually become that rewarded for all our previous efforts.
Anyway, I want to say thank you so much, Kachalla Sharme, for joining us to discuss these statements made by the minister, most importantly, at the Yonga. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Gender rights advocates have called for strengthening of existing laws that will help tackle sexual and gender-based violence and bring an end to the rising cases of femicide in the country. They expressed concern over the stigma and shame experienced by victims and also the culture of silence, which continues to empower perpetrators. Our correspondent Idong Joseph completes the report.
Femicide, which is an intentional killing of women and girls on the account of their gender, is a serious crime that is on the rise in Nigeria. Some recent cases of femicide include the arrest of Paul Jeremiah, a 20-year-old undergraduate, by the Kogi State Police Command for kidnapping and murdering Damilola, a 19-year-old first-year student, when dissatisfied with the ransom offered by her family. Also, the arrest of Ayomide Adeleye, a 200-level philosophy student who confessed to the murder of Christiana Idowu, a 300-level student of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta.
Justina Nkang was murdered and dismembered by her boyfriend. Damian Okoligwe, a 400-level student of petrochemical engineering at the University of Port Harcourt. The deceased was a 300-level undergraduate student. To date, no justice. Celine Ndudim and Afiba Tando vanished after visiting one Andrew Amechi. They are missing till date. These cases are just a few examples of what has happened this year alone, and it reflects a growing pattern of gender-based violence and femicide that is becoming frequent in our society.
A 2022 report claims that at least 401 women died from sexual and gender-based violence in the country, and many of these cases have gone unreported, leaving families of the victims devastated amidst the culture of silence.
We need to strengthen existing laws that address SGBV and ensure its enforcement. Perpetrators of femicide must face swift and adequate punishment to deter future crimes. It is critical to break this silence surrounding femicide in Nigeria. Public education programs that dismantle harmful gender stereotypes and promote gender equality can help reduce this culture of violence.
To effectively combat femicide, the government and other stakeholders have been tasked to unite in the fight against femicide, calling on families and loved ones of victims to discard the culture of silence, which continues to empower perpetrators. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Let's move on now to economic-related story. Nigeria's Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has issued a firm directive to the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, mandating them to resolve airline ticket refund issues within 24 hours. This comes in response to funds currently held by several airlines, especially those that have recently ceased flight operations. Speaking at the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos during the unveiling of the NCAA's Consumer Protection Portal, Keyamo expressed discontent with the difficulties passengers have faced in reclaiming funds from airlines that halted services. The minister emphasized that such behavior from airlines would no longer be tolerated. Well, joining me on the news now is Olumide Onayo, General Secretary Aviation Roundtable. Good to see you this morning. Let's start by looking at how these cases of delayed refunds actually impact the aviation industry against the background of international best practices. What's your take on that?
Well, the issue with Nigeria is that the laws are always there, the processes are always there, but we always had issues with the implementation, and implementation remains the problem, because there's a delicate balance between taking care of this, going by the rules, and also keeping the airlines afloat. But you can bear with me that if we apply the rules on delays and cancellations, almost all the airlines will go bankrupt because the flight delays and cancellations in our climb is abysmal. And when you ask the airlines, they also say that they are not responsible alone for these actions, that all the other government agencies and actions contribute to the delays and cancellations.
All right. What specific? Okay. Let me ask you this. I mean, what specific measures has the NCAA implemented to ensure airline ticket refund issues are resolved within 24 hours? Are you aware of any of it?
Well, let me tell you, something's always been there. Now, there's the NCAA regulation, Part 19, that deals with consumer protection. Part 7 of that, Section 7 of that Part 19 says a ticket refund must be done within 7 days. The NCAA has also gone ahead to create the Consumer Protection Department and also elevated that department to a directorate. So that makes the directorate easier for him to communicate with other agencies and parties outside the NCAA. But all these are processes that have been put in place, and yes, and consumers are still not finding it easy to get refund. And again, of recent is the launching of this new portal for consumer-related issues, for information, cancellations, delays, and flight information. And this I think this is the clincher that's coming in now. And that makes it easier for the passengers to just quickly go online and make their reports, rather than go through the other process that was a bit cumbersome for them.
I mean, how will the NCAA handle funds held by airlines that have ceased flight operations? We've seen some of them who have ceased flight operations, and how would it be able to handle that?
Sincerely, that's a very difficult question. I can tell you that the airlines that have ceased operation are also owing the agencies of government. So how would they now single out passengers? You know what? When airlines go out of operations, they are going with a huge amount of debts, and refunds to passengers are almost one of the least compared to the other debts owed by those airlines. They owe creditors, they owe the banks, they owe the agencies. And you can see what happened when NACON came in, stepped into some of the airlines. The priorities were to the banks, the banks and creditors. The passengers were the least of those on the list to be refunded. So I think the SCA, with the launch of this new portal, should step up the protection of passengers to name and airlines who are refusing to do this reform, and also release statistical data on delayed flight, cancelled flights, so passengers will see airlines who are performing, airlines they can rely on schedule reliability and assure that they will not be a victim of cancellation.
Okay, let's talk about the new NCAA Consumer Protection Portal, which is meant to improve the process of filing and, of course, reclaiming complaints for air travelers. How do you think this will indeed affect the processes, especially looking at the new portal which has been commissioned?
Well, yeah, I expect some improvement, but let me take you through what was the process in the past. In the past, what you're supposed to first do is to check if the ticket you have bought is qualified for a refund, because some tickets are non-refundable. But if your ticket is qualified for a refund, yes, then you can start the process, then you get your receipt. After getting your receipt, you state the reasons for the cancellation of that flight and then now demand for a refund. But now, that's a process that you have to write. Then you write to the DGNC, copy the director of consumer protection to help you get your refund from the airline. Because this is assuming that you have tried to get your refund directly from the airline and it has failed. But now, what the portal is doing now is that you have the portal who also have records of flights that's scheduled for that day. So if your flight is cancelled, right there from the airport, you go straight on the portal and make your complaints. And from there, I think this process will be faster in getting the refunds than the other process that was in place. Again, consumers must be very sure. Passengers must also be very sure that the condition of the ticket is eligible for refund. And I'm also state here that the 24-hour order given by the Honorable Minister for NCA to resolve all refunds, it's almost impracticable, and I don't think that would happen. A process can only kick in 24 hours, but definitely not the refund process.
Okay, well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. We can say a lot is being done in the aviation sector. Hopefully, it will yield positive fruits, no doubt. Mr. Olumide Onayo, General Secretary of Aviation Roundtable, thank you for being here on News Now.
Thank you for having me.
Well, still on the news, leadership experts in Nigeria have called on government to equip citizens with adequate tools and knowledge to maximize leadership potentials and also financial growth. This was as experts from across several sectors converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, for the 2024 National Leadership Conference. News Central's Joshua Imarayi reports.
The event, the 2024 National Leadership Conference with the theme Leadership Capital for World Creation, held in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The two-day conference saw the convergence of various experts from across several sectors in the country. Participants say young Nigerians must move beyond stomach infrastructure in order to develop the necessary leadership capital for the nation.
We need to know that what is at stake is too much. We are played with the future of this country so much. As a result of that, I want us to have a rethink. I want us to reinvent ourselves. I want us to repackage our values, our thinking process. I want us to focus on relearning, build a leadership capital culture that will help us take leadership seriously so that we can make the big difference that we need.
There are no free lunches. Every meal you eat has been paid for. Even if I invite you to come and have a free meal with me, I have paid for it. So nothing is free, okay? And then you don't deliver what you didn't design. So you must intentionally plan your life, design your life, tell yourself where you want to go to and how you want to go there, which means you must keep evaluating, auditing your credentials.
Other experts urge citizens to look for alternatives instead of depending solely on government programs.
Honestly speaking, government should always be in the forefront, but we, the masses,
must always make a choice of what we want. And we have to tell ourselves, we must make sure we get the best from the system. We don't need to put people in office who cannot deliver. And if every one of us is gainfully employed, doing something, even outside of government, you will have the power to decide on what you want. We should not leave it out only onto government. Government will do their own, but you see, the moment you surrender your willpower to government, then you'll be under them forever.
The conference explored key sectors including business, politics, healthcare, education, and leveraging technology for development. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Coming up next, Ghana police arrest 45 protesters over economic hardship. We'll tell you more about this story. Join us again. Thanks for joining us again. The news continues in West Africa, where Ghanaian police arrested 3 more protesters, including Oliver Baker Vamawo, leader of the Democracy Hub group, following clashes during demonstrations in Accra. This brings the total to 45 arrests after 42 people were detained the previous day. The protest, sparked by concerns over illegal mining and economic hardship, began on Friday and was set to continue through Monday. Demonstrators, mostly youths, marched through Accra with placards voicing frustrations over environmental destruction and government mismanagement. Police accused the protesters of unlawful assembly and attacking officers. According to police spokesperson Grace Ansah Akrofi, the arrested individuals will face charges including obstructing traffic, damaging property, and causing disturbances. We head to East Africa now, where Tanzania's main opposition leader Freeman Mbowe and Tundu Lissu were released on bail Monday night, according to their party, Chadema. The two had been arrested earlier in the day in Dar es Salaam ahead of a planned protest against alleged killings and abductions of government critiques. Mbowe, Chadema's chairman, was arrested on the street, while Lissu was taken from his home by a convoy of police vehicles. Despite being granted bail, Mbowe chose to remain in custody until all party members and supporters arrested during the protest were released. Police had deployed riot forces, detaining 14 people for defying the protest ban. The protest followed the death of Chadema leader Ali Mohammed Kibao, who was abducted and killed. In southern Morocco, 10 people were killed over the weekend after floodwaters swept away a bus, authorities have confirmed. Initially, 2 deaths were reported, with 14 people missing after heavy rainstorms in Tata province on Friday. However, authorities later recovered 8 more bodies and 13 survivors were rescued, according to the health ministry. 7 people remain missing. Earlier this month, similar floods claimed at least 18 lives in southern Morocco, where the Sahara Desert meets rare heavy rains. The region is also battling its worst drought in nearly 40 years, severely impacting agriculture. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying extreme weather, with more frequent storms and droughts threatening the water-stressed nation. In Southern Africa, Zimbabwe court has denied bail to the jailed opposition leader Jameson Timber and 64 supporters for a 3rd term since their widely condemned arrest 14 weeks ago. Critics have long accused Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF party, in power since independence in 1980, of stifling both democracy and dissent. Timber, leader of the main opposition Citizens Coalition for Change, and the others were arrested at his home on June 16, ahead of a Southern African summit in July. They were acquitted of a charge of disorderly conduct on September 4, but an allegation of participating in an unlawful gathering remains. In denied bail Monday, the magistrate said there are no new circumstances warranting their release from pre-trial detention. Former President Donald Trump has said he does not expect to run for election again in 2028 if he is defeated in this November U.S. presidential poll. Trump has been the Republican candidate for 3 national elections in a row and has reshaped the party greatly over the last 8 years. For News Central Chief International Correspondent Afua Hagen, she has more.
said he does not think he will run for president again in 2028 if he loses this year's US election. Trump, who was US president between January 2017 and January 2021, is running for a third time after he lost the last election in 2020 to Joe Biden. He is currently trailing this year's Democratic nominee Kamala Harris by 5 percentage points in a poll by NBC News. Ms. Harris has an average lead of around 3.6 points nationwide. Asked on the US news show Full Measure whether he will run again if he loses, Mr. Trump said, "No, I don't. I think that will be it." The former president would be 82 in 2028, a year older than President Biden is now. The answer was notable both because Trump seemed to rule out a fourth bid for the White House and because he rarely admits the possibility he could legitimately lose an election. Trump normally insists that could only happen if there was widespread cheating, a false allegation he made in 2020 and has preemptively made again during his 2024 presidential campaign. On Saturday, the former president rejected the idea of having a second debate with Ms. Harris.
She's done one debate, I've done two. It's too late to do another. I'd love to in many ways, but it's too late. The voting is cast. The voters are out there.
Kamala Harris had earlier agreed to the proposed matchup, which would be broadcast on CNN on 23rd October. She was widely credited as performing better than former President Trump in a debate on ABC earlier this month. The US election takes place on November the 5th, with early voting already beginning across some states. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
Australia is leading a new effort at the United Nations to protect aid workers in conflict zones. Deaths of aid workers are on the rise, with hundreds killed each year in conflicts around the globe. The death of an Australian aid worker in Gaza earlier this year has sparked the Australian push and a hope all countries can agree those helping others in need should never be a target.
Personnel. This group of ministers and governments represented have determined to pursue a new declaration on the protection of humanitarian personnel, a declaration which we will prepare and develop over coming months, in which we will seek to demonstrate the unity of the international community's commitment to protect humanitarian personnel and to channel that commitment into action in all current...
Well, let's now join our business team for today's business news.
In August 2024, the average retail price of 15,552.56 kobo was paid for refilling a 12.5 kilogram cylinder of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas. This is a 69.15% annual increase from 9,194 naira 41 kobo in August 2023. The National Bureau of Statistics reported that from 14,261 naira 57 kobo in July 2024, it also climbed by 9.05% on a monthly basis. In August 2024, the average retail cost of refilling a 5 kilogram cylinder of cooking gas climbed by 56.25% year over year to 6,430 naira 2 kobo. Liquidity in Nigeria's banking sector surged by 62.4% week on week to 1.2 trillion naira, driven by inflows from the standing lending facility, which amounted to 2.8 trillion naira, and T-bills maturities totaling 402.2 billion naira. This is according to Afrininvest. The firm mentioned this in its weekly report, noting that those inflows outpaced outflows via the standing deposit facility, which recorded 566 billion naira. System liquidity refers to the overall availability of cash and liquid assets in the banking sector, indicating how much money is circulating in the financial system and affecting banks' ability to lend and invest. A standing lending facility is a provision by the central bank, allowing commercial banks to borrow money short-term to manage liquidity. And finally, the euro fell against the dollar on Monday as business activity reports for the Eurozone economy disappointed, briefly extending declines after US data showed activity there held steady. The soft Eurozone data supported expectations for more interest rate cuts by the European Central Bank this year, with markets currently pricing in a roughly 77% chance for a cut of at least 25 basis points at the central bank's October meeting. A survey compiled by S&P Global showed Eurozone business activity sharply contracted this month as the bloc's dominant services industry flatlined, while a downturn in manufacturing accelerated. The contractions appeared broad-based, with Germany's decline deepening, while France returned to contraction following August boost from the Olympic Games. In contrast, U.S. business activity was steady in September, but average prices charged for goods and services rose at the fastest pace in 6 months, possibly pointing to an acceleration in inflation in coming months. That's all for business news at this time. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetual Fasama Peter. The news continues shortly. Bye for now.
And that's all for the news this hour. But before we go, let's take a look at some of the major stories. Notorious bandit leader Kachalla Sharme and others killed in clash between rival groups in Kaduna. Kogi State House of Assembly demands sack of EFCC Chairman Ola Olukoyede. Opposition leaders released ahead of planned protest in Tanzania. Send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on all socials. We are at News Central TV and watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, stream live on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Many thanks for watching. I am Joe Hanson. Jasiri comes up at 10 a.m. West African time.